I just have to say, the Time Hotel, amazing, fantastic concept. I loved it so much. Now I'm terrified of the locked door in a hotel room. Hello, interwebs. I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to my review of the 2024 Christmas special for Doctor Who. This one titled Joy to the World. Okay, I'm not gonna do that. It's just Joy to the World. But before I get into my review, I will just say I'm a little bit of a liar, because if you caught my review for Star Wars Skeleton Crew that came out yesterday on Christmas, I said that was going to be my last review from this space because I am currently moving. But I completely forgot that Doctor Who has a Christmas special coming out. So here we go. I'm doing it now. I'm still in this space. In fact, you can still see that I'm painting some of the walls to make sure I don't lose my security deposit. So that's where I'm at in my life right now. So just know I am doing this because I love doing it and because I love all of you and I love discussing this stuff. But I am tired right now and sore all over. Anywho, let's get into the review. You don't care about any of that nonsense. I thought this was a particularly fantastic Christmas special. Christmas specials and the New Year's Eve specials, I should toss in there as well, for the Jodie era have been very up and down throughout the entire run of modern Doctor Who. There have been some of my favorite episodes of Doctor Who in the Christmas special era, in particular Matt Smith's first one. I adore and is part of my ongoing rotation of Christmas specials. Whereas, some of them, especially the more recent ones, including the New Year's Eve ones, I just feel like they're just sort of like standard episodes of Doctor Who that just happen to be set during Christmas. A couple have broken that here and there. I think the David Tennant ones are also still top tier as well. But otherwise, they just especially lately, they've been feeling that way. This one felt like a great return to form, to feeling like it was a Christmassy style episode. Yes, the whole plot wasn't particularly Christmassy, but the mood of the episode really just captured that kind of joyful melancholy that I really appreciate about Christmas works. I don't know what it is, but whenever I watch something at Christmas time, I want it to capture this kind of a little bit of sadness, a little bit of melancholy, and yet hope and joy and just looking forward to the new year. I don't know, there's a weird little alchemy that you have to capture tonally, and I think this one captures it so well, and I think that is pretty much resting all on Ncuti Gatwa. I made very clear that his first season had a lot of ups and downs. The finale was its own whole thing, but on the whole, I really liked his first season. But it was such a fast season, so it was everything was moving, everything was grooving. We only got 8 or 9 episodes with him or so, if you count the Christmas special, and we were also learning Ruby's stuff on top of that, and she had her own whole mystery that we will not talk about right now, and so it was and especially even 2 of those 9 episodes, they were Dr. Light episodes, so we didn't get a ton of time to just let Ncuti be Ncuti as the Doctor. And I think this was the first episode that just really he's had such great personality and screen presence, and he's just been amazing throughout his entire run so far, but this felt this is him just going to be the full Doctor. And again, that's not to say he hasn't been, but he really feels the moments where he goes back into his TARDIS after being in the Time Hotel and he says, I noticed something, I put on my coat, why did I do that? That feels so the Doctor. The moment when he yells at his future self about oh, you're always alone, and you don't look at the chairs, you don't know you don't notice that you don't have any chairs, that again, and then he realizes it after he said it. Feels so perfectly the Doctor, and yet Ncuti also brings his own energy, that sort of exuberance and joyousness and just camaraderie that I always get out of Ncuti's appearances. He just has this great sense of feeling very welcoming in a way that some Doctors don't always give, and I just appreciate that really kind presence, and it really works this episode to capture that melancholic feeling, because he is so joyous that when we have these moments of connection that he gets with Trev, who is fantastic, by the way, Joe Fry, I think is the person's name. I remember him from, I believe, Taskmaster, and he's great. But his connection with Joe Fry, the hotel attendant agent, it was just this sweet back and forth, and just Trev just trying to be yeah, I feel like I can help you, and you get this sadness then pulling on top of that when Trev dies. And there's a sweetness and sadness done to it here that I think Chris Chibnall's era I think is a good contrast that didn't capture, because if you watch some of Chris Chibnall's episodes, and especially his New Year specials, we would get things where like we'd just like meet a character and they'd be clearly cannon fodder for the Dalek or whatever enemy is there for that week's episode, but they would just get like, we get like an establishing like factoid about them, like, hey, they're gay, hey, they have a girlfriend or whatever, and then immediately kill them to make you feel like, oh, I'm sad they died. And it just felt like cheap and kind of cruel. Whereas here we get to know Trev, his personality, his wants, and his desires. It's never explicitly stated to us, but we get that he wants someone to be proud of him, and the Doctor's giving him that, and giving him that chance, and respecting him in a way that he hasn't been seen before. And you can intuit all that by the performance. And so when he does die, it's this sadness. I really just felt it because we got to be with him even in those short moments. And the fact that this episode is able to do that several times with the Anita arc, where the Doctor is stuck in the past for an entire year and has to go the long way around, and having to spend that year with Anita, I thought was one of the most affecting things that this episode, an episode of Doctor Who has really done, where it just allowed the Doctor to just exist as a human for a year. There's been other things that have captured the Doctor doing that before, like there was the Matt Smith episode where he was he rented the apartment, and there's also, if you listen to it, the Doctor Who Big Finish audio series called Stranded, which is very good as well. I would highly recommend both of those. But this one is, for the first time, really felt like he just had to sit and exist and be. Whereas like the Matt Smith one was just kind of bonkers fun comedy. He didn't really get to just be a person. It was kind of more over the top. And Stranded's an audio drama. Not to dissuade that I love audio dramas, but like it wasn't the on-screen presence. And here we just get to just have him exist as a person and feel like what it's like to just get to know somebody on their own terms and as themselves. And the scenes with Anita were just filled with this warmth and kindness that just, again, managed to just tell this really affecting tale in just like, 10-15 minutes that then brings us back to the adventure and we're off again. And it was just this really sweet story of the Doctor needing to slow down and be with people. And it works really well after him just having left a companion. It's kind of interesting that a lot of the holiday specials, David Tennant's in particular, always have like the David Tennant being in between companions and having to be with like a one-off companion. And, despite the fact that Joy, and we'll get to this because I have critiques on Joy, Joy being the most prominently marketed companion for this episode, it's really Anita that feels like the real companion here, even though she didn't get to travel with him, though neither did Joy, I guess. And you just get these moments of reflection on the Doctor between companions before he gets someone new to run off with, of what it means to sort of be alone and to be him and who he is. And I really found that to be kind of, it always is meaningful when a Doctor, different actors get to portray that. And I found it kind of profound about his character, of just someone who wants these things and likes these things, but he keeps going. He can't stop moving. He has to keep his brain active. And there's a semi-tragedy in that. So all of that captured really, really wonderfully. What is shocking is I have gone, 9 minutes so far? Haven't even talked about the main plot of this episode, and that is the Time Hotel. And I think that is ultimately because I think the Time Hotel stuff was a lot of fun. The concept is great. I love getting to see different eras of things, and the Silurian hotel manager. All the aspects of this Time Hotel were great and wonderful and a lot of fun, and a very Stephen Moffat-esque concept. And by the way, Stephen Moffat wrote this episode, even though Russell T Davies is the showrunner, because he's coming back again. And I have complicated feelings I've expressed elsewhere about the two showrunners who have run things before coming back to continue write episodes and not letting new writers take over in different ways. That's a conversation for another day. That being said, they're both great. I do enjoy their writing, and this is very Stephen Moffat at his best in terms of concept. I mean, Stephen Moffat, as a writer, just has this really cool ability to sort of take everyday things that, we all notice but don't think about and make them creepy or strange or weird or magical. He's done that in so much of his work, like the noticing something out of the corner of your eye, sort of thing as well, with the silence. But here he does that with the doors that are always locked, usually leading to adjacent rooms in a hotel room, and makes them not scary, which you could definitely make those scary, but makes them kind of magical and fun in a weird way. So yeah, he's always just very good for that as a writer, and I always, despite his Moffatisms that I do have criticisms about, overall I think that one of his greatest strengths, and one of the things that I personally love him for as a writer, and that's on full display here. However, where I feel this is lacking is in Joy in particular. Like I said, Joy was the one who was marketed the most with this episode, and I thought we were going to get some time with her, and it's fine, it's okay if they wanted to market her and then didn't happen to follow her, but it was like a weird expectation. But then on top of that, Joy, again, despite being marketed the most, felt like she had the least character. She kind of just was there as a plot function. And we got like little moments with her, like when she checked in the hotel is very sad, when the doctor sort of pushes her to get to reveal her mother dying from COVID. I don't know if they say COVID, but they certainly, it's clearly meant to be COVID. It's set during 2020 and she couldn't go in to see her. Weird if they didn't say COVID though. It's kind of strange to just like allude to it so directly and not say it. And I don't know, it just didn't land as hard for me. I don't know why, because like what did actually hit is at the end when her mother is dying and she sees the star in the sky, and I'll come back to the star part of it because I have also feelings of that, but like that moment did actually hit for me. And maybe it was just the visual of that, because as many of you know, if you followed me, I did have a grandmother who did also die alone in a hospital during COVID. And that really hurt. And I know I'm not alone in that. So seeing that actually did kind of hit me kind of hard because of the personal resonance. But for some reason, when Joy was sort of getting angry about it, I don't want to say it was terrible. Like, it didn't feel like it was off, but it didn't hit as hard as it should have. And I feel like maybe it's probably because of this like focus on the rules aspect of it, which felt weird to me. And I don't want to get into the whole politics situation of it, because obviously here in the United States it was a whole political thing of like, follow the rules, mask mandates. That's a whole other thing. But it just felt like the wrong focus for Joy. That it was like, the damn rules. And I get like she would be angry at these rules that prevented her from seeing her mother, but like given the political context, that's kind of weird. And it didn't feel like the core of her hurt. It was just like she hated herself for not being there for her mom. And I don't know, it was just, and that's what we eventually get to at the end, but just the way we got there just didn't land as hard for me. And it was also difficult to kind of go from these, like, she's a sad sack loner in the beginning of the episode, and then, like, lose her for, like, a good chunk of time in the episode, and then come back to it and be like, hey, now we're going to feel sad about your mom, this, like, huge extreme, and then we kind of lose her again as she's sort of just drawn along by the doctor's sort of plot machinations as we go through, and then she becomes a star at the end. Which again I'll talk about. So it's just like her narrative arc just was so disparately spread throughout the hour, and they were kind of in like weird extremes, and didn't feel like they just landed as hard for me. That it really felt like she just kind of was there. And that's sad because she does have emotional beats, but they just don't hit it as hard, which leads me ultimately to the resolution of the episode, because we ultimately learn that this briefcase that's being handed around by people is from Villengard. I also love the continually referencing of Villengard. I know they go all the way back to like I think Christopher Eccleston's era, I believe is one of their first reference, but I kind of like them getting prominence. They've had like 2 episodes in the past 2 seasons, both using the same like AI resurrecting technology too. So I like that continuity, and I kind of hope we get to see more of Villengard, because I think that's an interesting sort of direction to go as like a background villain. But regardless, they are trying to make a star, which is an interesting enough idea. I kind of like this is an aside, I've been reading a lot about the heat death of the universe in physics lately, for weird emotional reasons. I don't know, been dealing with some shit emotionally because of the way the world is, and reading about the heat death of the universe has been helpful. I'm writing a video about it for my main channel, so you'll get it sometime next year, but this is my own weird brain. When I have fears of the world, I looked at the heat death of the universe. Anywho, but yeah, so I connected with that whole like, oh, the star stuff and like the metaphors of stars and all of that jazz that they were getting to emotionally at the end. That Villengard sort of was just like trying to use this star stuff for profit. But what weird to me, I was like, I just didn't follow the logic at the end of the episode where it's like, oh, I guess she gets to contain the star stuff and she can just fly off and become a star. And I was sort of like, it just felt like kind of easy and not super explained very well. And felt kind of convenient to get this nice pat, like cutesy ending in a way that didn't feel super earned by the rest of what was going on, especially since I wasn't tracking Joy's arc as hard throughout the episode. And so it just felt like nice and pat and easy and meant to be this cutesy, nice, like feel-good ending, but just didn't hit. And I feel sad about that because I like ultimately what it's trying to say and to do in this letter, like connecting of human hope across the eras, looking up at the sky and finding the star and joy to the world and that whole thing. Connecting different eras, which, by the way, also connecting it to Bethlehem right at the end. I mean, I get where they were going for it, and it's cute, sort of like, okay, kind of way. I'm curious to see what the particular crowd will make of that. But regardless, I'll leave that aside. But yeah, it was for me, it was kind of like, okay, that's okay. You're being cute. All right. But yeah, it just, this ending with her just becoming star stuff just felt convenient, didn't follow it. And I usually feel like I follow stuff like that pretty well. And even I am someone generally more predisposed as just a reviewer to be like, all right, the logic of it didn't make a lot of sense, but the emotionality of it worked for me, so I'll let it go a little bit more. I'm usually someone to give it a little bit more leeway, but here it just kind of felt so out of left field. And again, my tracking of Joy felt a little bit let down that it didn't land for me. That being said, I did like the ending montage where we do get like not just Bethlehem, but the connecting of the star throughout the entirety of history and everyone looking up at it. That is a concept I thought was really wonderful and felt like a good cap of like we're all, looking up at the same stars and connected under the same stars, sort of idea and concept. Also, speaking of like those cool concepts, the bootstrap paradox, like where did the code come from if the Doctor never learned the code? Love that sort of thing as well. Those sort of ideas are really cool. But yeah, I liked the note that it ended on. And I also, speaking of, I didn't track Joy, but Trev at the end, getting his moment to say goodbye and getting to complete his mission and feel like he had accomplished something at the end, like that hit me harder than the Joy stuff, outside of the mom scene at the end. So like, there was still good in that even if I didn't love the Joy stuff, which I didn't I'm being very critical on it. I didn't hate the Joy stuff. It just didn't land as hard for me. I think that worked very well. Anyways, I think that's pretty much everything that I have. I think, like I said, at the end of the day, this is a fantastic showcase for Ncuti. It felt like his best outing is just being the Doctor, but maybe not the best episode for him. I would still put that up as like a Dot and Bubble or 73 Yards. It was one of the best Doctor Who episodes of his era, but like this was a good showcase for him as the Doctor. I think probably the best one he's gotten, and I loved that, and I loved like a lot of the tone and the like little scenes and the just humanity of this episode on so many levels, especially the Anita section, and the vibes of this one and the concept of the Time Hotel. I just think the resolution and the ultimate like beat by beat plot of it, as well as Joy, were a little bit of a letdown. But still, I think one of the stronger Christmas specials that we've gotten, Christmas/New Year specials that we've gotten in the past few years. So yeah, I enjoyed it. What did you think about it, though? I'd love to hear all your thoughts down below. And beyond that, my friends, I hope y'all live long and prosper.